Shanti, everyone. Welcome to our Saturday evening workshop. And also welcome to Sister Merrillyn. Today we are bridging the East and the West. So I just want to introduce Sister Merrillyn to all of you. A quick introduction about Sister Merrillyn. She is actually a physical therapist, or she has worked as a physical therapist for 25 years. And currently she's practicing in Cambridge. She's also a certified integrative manual therapist since 2013. And she has been practicing and teaching Raja Yoga meditation since 2007. And today's topic is actually very, very beautiful. The power of a spiritual attitude. You know, in the world, you know, oftentimes we say, "Oh, that person has got attitude," right? Sometimes the word attitude can have, you know, a different connotation to it. But Sister Merrillyn is gonna teach us today. She's going to share us the wisdom how to have not a worldly attitude, but really a spiritual attitude. So Sister Merrillyn, welcome, a virtual welcome to Los Angeles.
Thank you, Sister Vino. Nice to see you. Nice to be with all of you. It's one of the miracles of this last year is our Zoom development, right? How we can just Zoom across the country in 1 second and be there with each other. So thank you for that. It's nice to be in LA Center, even virtually, although physically would be more fun, but maybe next year we can do that. We'll see. So thank you for that introduction. Appreciate it. Yeah. So welcome this evening's session. As Sister Vino mentioned, the topic is the power of a spiritual attitude. And before I get into like the depth of the topic, just to share a little of how it came about, because it's something I've been practicing with over the last year, actually. And because as a physical therapist, I, of course, have had to work through this whole COVID-19 lockdown and all that. I was going out every day and really interacting with people directly who had COVID actively in the hospital. We had to shift our whole job from outpatient to inpatient, and when it was in that first wave. So it was a challenge because I also live in the center in Boston and, you know, maintain a spiritual life. So to be in that environment of fear all the time was really a challenge. And in the beginning I did very well. But over time, it's like somehow I felt like my desire to go to work, to be at work, and my feeling that I was holding towards my job was really not, it was more resentful and not very accurate. And I was unhappy to the point where it got so stressful that I was wondering if I could really continue with it, because people had a lot of demands and the work was changing all the time. And it was very challenging for me. So where I normally had this lovely attitude at work, it was really shifting a lot. And so I really had to take a deep look at what was going on in my own thoughts, my own mind around this, and really discovered how entrenched I was in my identity and my awareness of myself as a physical therapist, as opposed to taking that higher route, the higher level of understanding of myself as a spiritual being, as a soul, and my role in a spiritual sense in this world. So it was a very interesting reflection for me. And out of that came this topic that I'm going to share with you tonight. And so I'll intersperse little stories here and there. And I'm very relaxed. So please, if you have a question, you can raise your hand or just type in the chat, interrupt me. It doesn't matter. Feel free. And we'll, of course, also do some meditation in between and at the end. So you'll all get your chance to really set that spiritual attitude, which, of course, comes from the awareness of who we are. So I'm just going to pause for a moment and share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint going here. You can all see that? Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So here we have our topic, power of a spiritual attitude. And we're going to talk more about where does our attitude come from? What is it? Do we have a choice in our attitude? And how does that influence how we feel in our world? How do we feel in our interactions and internally within ourselves? So we'll go into all of that. But the first step, of course, is to kind of step back. If I want to maintain a spiritual attitude, I have to step back from the world. I can't be so engrossed all the time in the physical aspects of my life, my roles and responsibilities. So we're going to start with just a little meditation. There's a lot of tools online. This comes from Inner Space in London. It's just a very short meditation commentary, and we should use these, throughout our day. If we're getting stuck in our role, if we're getting stressed, if we're forgetting our original nature, just take 3 minutes and kind of step back and listen or watch one of these little videos. It really helps to really feed the mind those little jewels every once in a while to keep the attitude in a spiritual sense. So we're going to go into that. So just sit back and relax and enjoy our meditation for 2 minutes.
Visualize yourself standing by the shore of the sea, looking out onto the vast seas. And as the waves toss over one another, let your emotions surface and merge into the waves. Watch and foam, lose momentum. As calmness emerges from turbulence, stand still and absorb the tranquility of the scene, inhaling the calmness and serenity, feeling restlessness. With each breath, feel your mind becoming clearer and clearer. Feel a sense of clarity set in. As you stand still, standing tall, like a lighthouse, let your focus remain stable and steady. Feel lighter and brighter. Let your inner light expand. And like a lighthouse, spreading beams of light into the world. Spread the light of hope in all directions, illuminating the way for others, empowering them on their journey.
Okay, so Shanti, just sitting for a minute and feeling the difference in your energy and your inner world, just with 3 minutes of listening to a beautiful commentary and seeing the scenes of the ocean and feeling yourself to be strong and stable like a lighthouse. And really that's what having a spiritual attitude or spiritual awareness is about. It's about creating stability within that inner light, the soul that lies within each of us, and allowing that power and that awareness to infuse everything that we do, right? And that's how we share with others. That's how we create a sense of serenity in others and help them come back to their original awareness and understanding of themselves as spiritual, as peaceful, as loving, right? So that's the goal of working with this power of spiritual awareness. And so in front of you, you see the tree, and I'm going to use a little analogy to describe what we're going to talk about today. And this tree, it kind of represents all the different pieces of an action that we do, or an interaction that we might have. We're going to talk about interactions with others and how to keep a spiritual attitude during that. So this could be a good analogy of this tree represents all the different aspects of what it takes to have a good interaction. Right? And so that first part, bottom, is the seed, and that's what we're working with. What is the seed of that interaction or action? How am I coming into that space of the interaction? With what awareness? Am I holding an awareness of antagonism? Am I trying to manipulate?
Shanti, we just lost Sister Merrillyn. There must be some internet issues and she will log in again. So we'll just wait for her to come back. Shanti.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what happened on my end. Zoom just cut out, so I don't know why. So I apologize for that. You know, if you can just make me screen co-host again, I can reshare my thing. Thank you. All right, so I apologize. Hopefully we'll be good from now. I don't know what happened. All right, so we're talking about the seed, our awareness or attitude at the start, at the base of every interaction or action we have. The tree, the methods we use to carry that seed and the energy of that seed into our actions and into our interactions to maintain it, even if things are not going as planned. And then finally, the fruit. What is the result? If we want a certain result, say we want to create more closeness between another person, if I hold the right attitude, use the right method, that will result in an increased rapport, for example. Just one example. So this is what we're going to be talking about. What is the seed? How do we set it? And what are some methods we can use to maintain it so that we get the right fruit out of our actions? So first, to understand what is it that creates our attitude, right? What is an attitude? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts about what creates an attitude. You feel free to put them in the chat box if you want. There are 4 different components that I've identified, but there certainly can be more for sure. But the ones that I've identified, what creates our attitude, first and foremost, the thoughts moving in our minds, right? This is something that we have some control over. Ranjit says our belief system, absolutely. Our experience, yep, you guys are getting all my points. Excellent. Daniil said experience. So underneath all of that lies the thoughts, right? Because the thoughts that move through our mind in any given moment will help to set and either perpetuate or push down the attitude we're trying to create. So becoming aware of our thoughts and working with our thoughts and working with shifting those into a positive place that's in alignment with our attitude. It's part of that, or in alignment with our awareness that helps to create the attitude that we're presenting to the world. And as Sister Vina was saying in the beginning, it can be a positive attitude. I can have an attitude of lightness and happiness and joy, or I can be one who's a little bit off-putting or a little bit negative. I can be someone who has an I'm greater than you kind of attitude. There's many different attitudes. Our thoughts combined with our past experiences, combined with our belief systems, will help create our attitude, right? But if we just look at these 3 things, we seem to be at the mercy of what's happened to us, right? So our past experiences definitely color the way we see something, right? If I've had a negative interaction with a certain person many times in the past, then I'm going to carry that past experience of that negative interaction into my future interactions, unless I do something to intervene with that, right? So past experiences are definitely going to influence the attitude we carry with us into every interaction. In past experiences, oh, I didn't sleep well last night, so therefore I'm going to have a bad day. Because last time didn't sleep well, I had a very hard day. So we remember that, and then we carry that and have an expectation that, oh, I didn't sleep well last night, so the day is not going to be good. And so that experience colors our vision. It influences our thoughts and the way we think about our day. We start to carry that, oh, this day is going to be tough kind of attitude with us. And what's going to happen? Naturally, the day will be tough. Belief systems also are something that influence our attitude, and sometimes we're aware of them and sometimes we are not. Sometimes they are something that we've developed through our own experiences and our own study, or what we've been working with during our life. Sometimes they're carried through from our childhood, something that our families perpetuated in us. Perhaps they're cultural, perhaps they're religious, right? The beliefs I grew up with, that I was told were true when I was young, that my family and friends all believed to be true. I start to develop those belief systems as well. And that also colors my attitude and creates my attitude. So as we get older and we start to think more deeply about who we are, about the kind of life we want to have, about how we want to live, it's important that we look at our belief systems and see, do those still mesh with who I am? Are those still true for me? Or have I developed a different belief system or a different idea of what life is about, right? So there's many different examples of belief systems, and definitely they color our attitude combined with our experiences from the past, and we start creating thoughts based on these things, right? And if we don't put some sort of stop to that, if we don't intervene from a higher place, we'll go around being with an attitude that's sort of at the mercy of our past and who we were and who we've been with in the past, right? So what is the other ingredient that we can add in to our attitude to shift it, to change it? And that is our awareness. What awareness am I holding in my mind? And am I choosing to hold that awareness, or am I allowing it to be dictated by past experience, beliefs, perhaps even thought patterns that I have dealt with my whole life, right? So if I'm letting all of these color my belief systems, and my awareness is I am one who is entrenched in this. I am one who's at the mercy of this. I am going to have an experience that is sort of self-perpetuating, right? I have no control. These things really influence me or dictate how I feel. But I can choose as a spiritual being, as a conscient being, as someone who has higher thought processes, who has the soul and the intellect within the soul that allows us to make different choices and decisions. I can choose to shift my awareness at any moment. It's like I can pull myself out of this pool of old belief systems and old past experiences and negative thought patterns and shift into that awareness of who I am beyond all of that, above all of that. Who am I originally? If I strip away the history, if I strip away the story, who am I? I am a peaceful being. I am a soul. I'm a spiritual being. I'm eternal. I'm beyond the ups and downs of life. I'm beyond the negativity of the belief systems. I'm beyond even my past experiences. In the present moment, I am a soul playing a role in this moment. And I'm going to hold that awareness that I am peace, that I am love, right? And that when I give that energy, when I hold that awareness, I will create different experiences. Perhaps I'll be able to shift my belief systems based on those experiences. When I hold that awareness, I will create a different set of thoughts, right? Thoughts and awareness go together. Let me be aware of what thoughts I'm thinking, right? Let me understand the types of thoughts I need to create in my mind to bring about spiritual awareness. And when I do that, belief systems, past experiences, they have less hold on me, right? I'm no longer just blindly accepting them, but instead, if they don't fit, I'm allowing them to fall away, perhaps shifting them and creating a different outcome, right? So that's the change of that seed that we were talking about with the seed of the tree, right? If I shift the seed to a spiritual awareness, whatever I want or need it to be in that moment, right? And I create thoughts around that, then I can actually override this automatic past experience and belief system influence and create the attitude I want. It takes practice for sure, and it takes time. You have to be willing to sit with yourself and go into meditation, set the scene, so to speak. And we'll talk more at the end about how to do this during the day. What are some awarenesses that you can hold? But we can and change and choose our attitude. And we can change and choose that attitude in a moment. If you find yourself slipping into an old habit pattern, if you're aware of who you are and you're paying attention to your thoughts, you can feel yourself when you're slipping down an old road. If you keep practicing, eventually you'll be able to pull yourself out and choose a different direction. So I hope that all makes sense. What creates your attitude? Again, if you have questions or want to say anything, please feel free. So let me go to the next slide. So how do we define a spiritual attitude? For the purposes of this talk anyway, maybe there's more definitions. I'm sure there are. This check, choose, change. Yes, absolutely. We call it SOS, stand back, observe, and steer when it comes to your thoughts. And you can also do that with your awareness, definitely. So thank you for that comment. All right, so what is a spiritual attitude? So this is just the sort of dictionary definition. I don't know why I like to do this. I always go into dictionary definition of things when I'm giving a talk for some reason. So what is that dictionary definition? Manner, disposition, feeling, position, etc., with regards to a person or thing. A tendency or an orientation, especially of the mind, right? And definitely we're talking about the mind. And what awareness are we holding within the mind? So we're taking a little step deeper than just the mind, but our awareness of what's going on in the mind is actually also part of creating and maintaining that spiritual attitude. So in our sense, we can think about our attitude as our awareness. The combination of thoughts, past experiences, and belief systems creates the attitude. And as we said, we can learn to sort of override or negate some of the past experiences and belief systems that don't suit us by holding the right awareness, a new awareness of what kind of energy I want to bring into myself and into a situation, and then creating thoughts around that. And then there are also different tricks we can use to maintain that spiritual attitude as we move through our day, through our interactions. And this awareness, it's a little bit of a slippery thing. And I think it's slippery because it's subtle and it's something perhaps we haven't worked with a lot or paid a lot of attention to. So almost anything can pull us out of the awareness. You know, we leave in the morning, with a determination that throughout work today, I'm going to remember that I am a peaceful soul whose sole job at this office is to bring peace to other people. And so no matter what else I have to do, whatever busyness I have or meetings or, some things, deadlines and all of the things that come with being in the working world. I know some of us are working at home, but just using this as an example, we hold that awareness. We may get to work and because we had a nice meditation in the morning or we listened to something positive and fulfilling on our way to work on, a podcast or something, we feel full, we feel light, we feel peaceful when we get there in the morning. And we have such a beautiful hour or two. And then what happens? Gradually, our awareness gets pulled out of ourselves as souls and gets pulled into the role that we're playing and the things that we have to do in our day. And we become very action oriented rather than awareness oriented. Right? And so we get busy, we have deadlines, we start moving A, B, and C. And then all of a sudden the awareness is I have to complete A, I have to meet with B, and I have to do C. And that's the awareness we end up bringing into all of our interactions. I'm busy, I don't have time. Sorry, I have to get this done. I'm the one who's supposed to do this, not you, right? It becomes a competition, it becomes externally based. And with that externally based awareness that gets pulled immediately out, competition starts, right? Irritation starts with others, demands start, expectations start, and it pulls us right out of our peace. And then all of a sudden, we're behaving the same way as everybody else in the office. And we've lost our determination or that awareness that I am a peaceful soul and I'm bringing peace to everyone throughout the day. However, if we have tools in place throughout the day to pull ourselves back and to come back into the right awareness and the right attitude, we can shift that. So maybe I become aware I'm feeling a little stressed or I'm a little short with my coworker who asked me a simple question, but because I was busy, I was a little distracted and short with them. I can also use that as a cue. Oh, I don't feel good about that interaction. Oh, I'm feeling stress. It's time for me to just stop and take a moment and look at my awareness, right? So I can take a break, go get a drink of water, cup of coffee, go use the bathroom, whatever I need to do to get away from the immediate environment and just sit for a moment with myself and relook at what awareness am I holding. These little pauses throughout the day, you probably have heard this before, and you guys have heard a lot of talks by now from the BKs about traffic control, where we take a moment every hour, every 3 hours, whatever works for you, just a minute to sit back and look into that awareness. What am I holding in my awareness right now? What is my attitude, my posture in the day? And I have the awareness and the attitude of someone who's peaceful or not? And have I slipped out of that? So we will all get pulled throughout the day. It happens, but are we using the tools we need to use in order to maintain that awareness and keep it there? So that's how we create our attitude. It's a moment by moment thing. It's not a once in the morning thing or once a week thing, but every moment I choose what awareness I hold when I am performing actions in my day. And just another example of an attitude we could use, elevated soul conscious attitude of brotherhood. This one is also very helpful when you're in interactions in the day. This one is not just my colleague, but as a human being, they're like my brother. And even though they may be impatient or upset with me in a moment, I know underneath that, just like me, they're beings of peace. And if I hold that for that one, and even if I can see that one in that way, it can really diffuse a lot of the stress and anxiety that happens when we're interacting. It can be with anyone, a family member, coworker. I'm just using work as an example because that's what I've been thinking about, but you can apply it to any interaction with any person. Who is this one? They're not just the colleague, not just my mother or my brother or my child. No, they're also my brother, the one who is peaceful like me. So holding that attitude of equality between self and others also helps me to create a spiritual attitude. It's part of holding that attitude. If I go out with that understanding, then I will treat people differently. And as a result, I will also be treated differently. And the spiritual awareness, the spiritual attitude sets that. Okay. So the question always comes, what color is your world, right? Knowing that our attitude and the belief systems and the past experiences and the thoughts we're thinking in the moment create a particular set of glasses that we wear. And that set of glasses can change from moment to moment, right? So I want to make sure I'm wearing the spectacles that are going to help me see everyone in the best light. I'm holding the spectacles that maintain the self-respect of who I am as a spiritual being. And I want to make sure those glasses are clean and fitting properly before every interaction that I do. So always asking myself, what color is my world today, right? And so one of the ways that we set that is, of course, through our meditation practice. You know, thoughts can become sort of automatic, but if I take a few minutes out of my day every day to practice creating soul conscious thoughts, to practice creating peaceful thoughts, to practice seeing myself as that being of peace who is solid and stable, like the lighthouse that we saw in our beginning meditation. The one who maintains that peace, is stable in that peace, and spreads that peace to everyone so they can find their way home. If I sit in that awareness every day, then I'll go out with the right color glasses. And it takes time because we have all this habitual thinking that comes from the past experiences and the belief systems. So we want to make sure that we're spending the time to shift that in a new understanding and really go deep into that new understanding so it becomes part of who we are, so that we don't have to think so hard anymore to create the right color glasses for our day, that it becomes more natural and it's less frequent that I might put on the wrong set of glasses as I move through the day. So I can give you an example of this that just happened recently. As a physical therapist, I see a lot of people who are in a lot of pain. And one of them is this gentleman who was in a terrible car accident. He was riding a bike and a car hit him. And he had a very, very bad break in his leg and a bad neck injury. Luckily, he wasn't paralyzed or anything, but it was a pretty intense accident that required a lot of surgeries for him to recover. So I was seeing him for physical therapy for quite a long time. I've been seeing him for several months now. And he was making slow, steady progress, and he would do his exercises every day, and he hold the right attitude that, yes, I'm going to get back on my bike and ride. I'm going to do what it is I need to do to improve. And he did everything I asked the right way. And we would hit road bumps. He would slow down in his progress and we'd have to shift our direction, and then he'd make progress again. It required a lot of patience and faith on his part, but he always came in with the right attitude. Well, then one day he started having all of this pain, and we don't really know why. It wasn't like he fell or he, did something too hard or, did something, inappropriate at all. It just all of a sudden he started having more pain than usual, and it wasn't going away. I mean, he'd had that in the past. His recovery is not easy. Pain happens as you recover for something like that. But for him, it was an unusual amount of pain, and it didn't fade. Normally it would fade, and it wasn't fading. So out of concern, I said, you really need to go see your surgeon. I'm not sure what's happened, what's going on. And I want you to go and check in with him and make sure everything is okay in your leg. He had some hardware in there, a rod and some screws and pins and 2 different breaks in his leg. So he had quite extensive hardware inside his leg, surgically implanted. So I went to his doctor, and then I didn't see him, right? All of a sudden he canceled 2 appointments. He missed the appointment I'd set up with him for our physiatrist where I work. And so I was concerned because he was one in the many months he'd never missed an appointment in the many months that I'd seen him. And so I start to worry. And you know, my habit pattern, because these situations, even though the situation is his, it's my interaction that I'm looking at, and my awareness and my attitude towards the situation that I want to shift. Because his reaction and his issue is for him, but my reaction and how I feel inside is what I should work with, right? So I start paying attention because I know myself really well, and I know that I have this tendency to take on the blame when something doesn't go right with someone's recovery, right? So someone's recovery is stalled, they have an accident, something happens, all of a sudden it's my fault. Whether it's really that or not, internally, I always feel this little sense of guilt or worry that I did something wrong. It's like my habit to think like that. So knowing that that's true for my normal attitude or awareness, I paid such close attention into when I was slipping into this feeling of, oh, this is my fault. Even though inside I know mentally, internally, I know nothing was anyone's fault. It's just something that happened. But am I able to maintain that sort of detachment a little bit from it and to say, no, his story is his story. What happened to him is unfortunate, but it's something he needs to handle and deal with. My job is to guide him the best that I can through his recovery in a way that is appropriate. And I've done that. So I would just, every time I'd feel that feeling of, oh, I did something wrong, come up, no. I would just tell myself, who am I? I'm a peaceful soul. I'm giving that soul as much as I can in each moment, and coming from a place of compassion and love and desire to help, right? That's my awareness, not this feeling like, oh, something I did was wrong. Because that is a really uncomfortable feeling. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure everyone's had that experience in their own way, but it happens for me through my work because I feel responsible for people. But ultimately, I'm not responsible. I'm responsible for myself, my own feelings, and what it is I share with that person. That person has their own life that they have to handle and they have to be, and I can support, right? But I can't change what has to happen. So when he came in and he told me, yes, I have a loose screw and the fracture didn't heal and the rod is bending, I'm probably gonna have to have surgery again. You know, his attitude was one of anxiety about the future, one of disheartenment. I've worked so hard until now, and now it's like I've slid back. Am I ever gonna make it back on my bike? You know, he had that kind of attitude, a little bit of despairing and anxiety naturally. But because I was able to really manage my internal emotions and not get pulled into that feeling of, oh, this is all my fault, or get defensive anyway, or try to justify anything, I was really just able to be there and to listen. And it was a really different interaction. It was a really lovely interaction. And it came because I consciously put the right color glasses on, right? I consciously worked on what is my awareness in this situation, knowing that I have this tendency to fall back into those old habits and thought patterns, and belief systems. So I hope that makes sense. I was just trying to give an example of what I've been talking about. So what color is your world? We can ask ourselves this every moment. We can ask ourselves this every morning when we wake up. And I think what we'll do is stop there for just a minute. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. That's totally fine. And if you don't, then what I think we're going to do is take a quick pause. And we're going to do a little attitude check. We're just going to sit for a few minutes in meditation together and reflect on what attitude am I holding right now? And does it need to be shifted? And how can it shift back into a place of peace? Okay. So I'm not going to put any music just because it distracts from the voice. So we'll sit in silence. The image of the point of light on your screen. If you want to practice with your eyes open, which is how we meditate in the Brahma Kumaris, you're welcome to just use that very gentle point of light as a gaze point, or anything else you want to choose in your environment, please do. If that's too bright for you, don't look at the screen. And in order to do a little attitude adjustment, attitude reset, we need to step out of our daily experience. We need to step out of roles and responsibilities we've taken on in this life. So let me sit for a moment and withdraw from the events of the day. Withdraw from my triumphs and mistakes today. Withdraw from anything that might be holding my awareness or my attention. And step back into awareness of my inner self. I am not the roles I play. I am not the events and stories of life. I'm not even this body originally. Eternally, I am a soul. A point of conscious awareness. The driver of this body. And at my core, my deepest nature, I am peace. I am love. I am joyful. And I allow myself to feel the peace within. To experience myself as light. I may be an actor in this drama of life, but when the scene is done, I take off that costume and step back to the awareness of my original, eternal self. And I make a conscious choice in this moment to take this spiritual awareness, my nature of peace, my form of light, to take that spiritual awareness with me into the world. So that my thoughts center around peace. So that peace and light infuse every action, every word. I choose to believe that I am this and can be this in every moment. Stable and strong like a lighthouse. I am being of peace, who brings peace into the world. Who shares peace with each one that I meet. Who creates my spiritual attitude in each moment by maintaining and building this spiritual awareness. Om Shanti. Cha. So thank you. Just noticing again how you feel now after just taking a pause and reconnecting to the being of peace within us, right? The one who we are originally, the soul. When I do that and take that little pause several times during the day, even if I can just bring that feeling and that experience of peace into each moment, if I'm going into a moment that I know might be challenging for me to hold on to my awareness, let me stop and pause just for a minute, just for a second. Remind me, who am I? I am like a lighthouse of peace who shares peace with each one I meet. And let me firmly hold that awareness into each interaction, right? And then my day will change, right? And my interactions will change. And people around me will feel the difference as well. So I think there was a comment, so I'm just going to quickly look. So the question is the practice of attitudes one of detachment or a change in perspective? I think it's both, really. In order to change our perspective, we have to detach a little bit from the scene that we're interacting in, right? So the attitude is, let me step back, see it from a different perspective, detach a little, because if I'm in too much in the scene and I'm in the moment, then all the emotion that goes with that, especially the negative emotion, will come up in me immediately. And I'll end up reacting and saying and doing things that are not in line with what I want my awareness to be and what I want my attitude to be. So when I'm too entrenched in a scene, like a scene with a person, for example, or with something going on around me, if I'm too entrenched in that, then I can't hold on to a spiritual awareness because I'm in a very physical place with a lot of hard emotions, and I'll get influenced by that. Those things will change my attitude. They'll influence my thinking and perhaps slip me back into old experiences. So first, we do have to change our perspective, but in order to do that, we have to step back a little bit and learn how to be a little bit detached. So like a really clear indication that I've sort of gotten pulled by the attitudes around me or by the influence of the situation around me is a change in my own mood and my own internal state of peace and my own inner state of awareness of what's going on in my mind, right? So this is a little what happened to me with the whole, with everything going on with the pandemic. I started to get influenced by other people's fears, worries, by the amount of weight being put on me. I got influenced by that and started to feel very heavy and lost my lightness when it came to work. And so I had to really step back and detach myself. I actually took time off. I went to Peace Village, which is our retreat center. I was vaccinated by then, so they were happy to have me come and visit. And I went and I stayed in nature and I was silent. I took a break and I really reset. And I talked to a couple of sort of spiritual advisors there and kind of explained the situation, and they helped me to reframe it, to give me a different perspective. And I was able to cement that through my meditation practice, through being in that silence. And then I went back into my work with a different attitude, and everything was really different for quite a few weeks. It started to slip back again, but I'm aware of what kind of attitude I slip into when I'm not feeling right at work. And I now have a framework that I use to pull myself out of that. So yes, both detachment is required to shift your attitude, and we also have to change our perspective. Both things are important. So thank you for that question. All right. So looking at spiritual attitude and relationships, and this is a big place where holding the right spiritual attitude makes a difference in our lives. You know, we are very social beings, as we've learned over this last year of lockdown, how much we like and need to be with people. But are we holding the right awareness and attitude in those relationships in a way that is supporting those relationships, is helping them grow and keeping them healthy? Or are they becoming a dependency, a source of anxiety or sorrow? So we really want to have that right attitude when we come into relationships to make our lives smooth and wonderful and make our relationships harmonious and bring such joy into our life. And our spiritual attitude can really help this. So what are some steps for that? First, holding attitude of generosity, love, cooperation, and selflessness, right? Just paying attention with what awareness or attitude am I approaching the relationship I have with a particular person, especially if it's someone that I have a challenge maintaining a good relationship with. I feel there's a little animosity there. Let me check on my own attitude. Am I approaching that person or that interaction from a place of generosity? What can I give them? How can I help them? Can I share love with them? What do I see in them that's loveful, right? How can I cooperate to make their day easier, right? Rather than trying to protect my own position within that relationship, let me act from a place of selflessness and say, what can I do for you? Just by shifting that attitude can break a lot of animosity and really makes us feel good. Now, it's not about getting walked on or, being passive or any of those things. It's a conscious choice that I am going to go into each relationship with this attitude of generosity and love. Let me give, not in a way that depletes myself, but in a way that uplifts the other and creates that relationship of giving, right? So holding the right attitude towards them as I go into the relationship and into the interaction is so helpful. And be free from wasteful thoughts in all your relationships. And this includes your relationship with yourself. How judgmental are you in your own mind? Right? Are we going into our relationships, especially with certain people, with this inner thought, I don't like this thing about her, or look at the way she is in that, look at what she's doing, or look at what she's wearing, or look at how she's speaking. We have this very critical attitude and we're constantly judging people. And all of that is wasteful thought. And if I hold those wasteful thoughts when I come into speaking with someone or interacting with someone, they're going to feel that attitude coming from me. Remember, thoughts are part of what creates our attitude. So if I'm holding them in a negative light, the wasteful thoughts I generate around that will express themselves in the way I interact and in the energy between us in the relationship. It's also true if I'm having wasteful thoughts about myself. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to make it. I'm not as good as her. I'm not as good as him. That one is the boss and I'm the employee. I'm never going to be able to stand up for myself. Like, we have these negative, wasteful thoughts about ourselves too, and that comes with us into the interaction. The other one will feel that. Some who have awareness might be able to help us out of that or empower us, but many will just trounce on that, right? So I have to look at what's my own awareness around myself. Am I holding wasteful thoughts about me in that relationship? Am I holding wasteful thoughts about the other one in that relationship? Am I seeing them in a negative light in any way? And also, am I basing the way I see them on my past experiences with them? Right? Because sometimes we've had experiences with people and we're convinced they're never going to change. And we go into that relationship or that interaction with the idea they are this way and that is it. And that's wasteful thinking, and that's blocking them from being able to shift and change. What would happen if I went into every relationship completely open that this one is a beautiful, peaceful soul who can choose any behavior in this situation, who will choose to be light, choose to be loving, choose to be respectful, right? Can I hold that thought? Can I let all the past go and let the past be the past and be in this present moment and hold a different awareness for that one, or for myself as I interact with that one? Because I can do the same thing to myself. Oh, this one always makes me feel down. Oh, this one always makes me feel I'm not good enough. So therefore, when I go into this interaction, I'm also going to not be good enough, right? We have our past experiences with our own self. Like me and my, oh, I caused the problem. I did something wrong sort of scenario with my patient, right? We can shift that. It's all wasteful thinking. Let me come into that relationship from a clean, clear place. I am a being, a peaceful soul on my journey. The other is a peaceful soul on their journey, and we have the fortune of walking together these few steps in our day. And let's do that with love. Let's do that with respect, right? So free yourself from wasteful thoughts in your relationship. So remain stable in your self-respect and give respect to others by practicing, quote, I first and you first accurately. So what does that even mean? So this is part of that tree, the method, the tree that will help us to create bountiful fruit when we are planting a seed of awareness and using the right method. The fruit that we get from that interaction or from that action is good. It's sweet. It's lovely. So this I first and you first is a method that we can use to keep ourselves in the right awareness. It's a fun game to play with yourself, actually. So everyone would say I first could be a little bit selfish, right? Oh, if I put myself first all the time, perhaps it's an ego thing. But that's not what this means. When do I put I first? I should put I first when I'm looking at a difficult situation. To shift it and change it, I have to look at myself first, right? If there's a relationship in my life that is not working, I have to stop trying to change the other one and stop expecting them to change themselves first. It's like, oh, well, when that one treats me with respect, then I'll be respectful to them, right? This is a common thing. I expect them to change first and then I'll do it after. No, if I'm practicing from a spiritual awareness, a spiritual attitude says, I have to shift myself first, and then the world around me and the people around me will change as a result of that. So I practice I first when it comes to changing the self and shifting myself in the relationship so that I can support and help grow a better outcome. So it's I first with where I keep my vision when I first when I keep my vision and when I am looking at transformation or shift. And when does the you first come? You first comes with that generosity we were talking about, with that cooperation we were talking about. What do you need? How can I help you? Let me hold you in the right light. Let me support you. You want to do that? Okay, please go ahead. I remember there was one brother in Peace Village, Ram Prakash. Maybe you've probably had him speak to you, I don't know. But he was always saying, I never insist that I have to do a project at work or that I have to take on a specific type of service in Peace Village. I never insist it's mine, right? If a project is coming up and somebody else wants to do it, I say you first, go ahead, right? And this is how the founder of our organization, Brahma Baba, was. He always put everybody else in the front. You're the one who's going to talk to the people. You're the one who's going to give the class. You're the one who's going to get on the stage and share, not me. Right? So you first in giving others opportunity and supporting them and helping them to move forward. It's like we're all on this rung of a ladder, climbing up towards our spiritual awareness. And I want to let everybody else go ahead of me, right? I'm climbing, but I want to give everybody else a chance to go as well, right? It's very humble to do that. So you first when it comes to that, I first when it comes to change in a relationship. And so that's one way that method that you can use to help you keep that stability in your attitude and hold the right awareness as you move forward. Am I practicing I first and you first accurately? Hope that made sense. And then lastly, be a quote holy swan in your interactions with others. You know, so in spirituality and in mythology, the swan is a very beautiful symbol of purity. It's a very pure white. No matter what kind of water it's on, it stays pure white. But in mythology also, the holy swan has this wonderful ability to discern. And discernment power is actually its quality that is remembered. They say the holy swan is the only one who can separate milk from water. So what does that mean? That means that in any situation, I can choose to see the pure, beautiful aspects of that situation and let go of whatever's negative, right? Or in Brahma Kumaris, we'd say the pearl. The Holy Swan picks up the pearl from a pile of stones. So what does that mean in being in interaction with others and holding that spiritual attitude? Let my goal be in every interaction to see the highest quality in them, no matter what. It may be that in this particular role they're playing, or in this particular moment in this drama of life, they're being very angry or very judgmental or very greedy or whatever they might be expressing. But can I detach a little from the energy of that and hold the awareness of the pearl inside them, right? And let go of all these stones they're throwing. Maybe throwing stones, they may be holding stones of anger or greed or whatever it is. But let me pick the pearl out. The peaceful being inside, the love, the respect, whatever I know that one to be. Let me hold that and see that and treat them as if they're giving that to me. Right? So only seeing the positive light, letting the negative go. And again, it's not about being walked over, any of that. Of course, you have to state your opinions and all of that, but it's taking the negative charge out of it, right? It's letting each one be neutral and the same ground and then sharing easily rather than this negative charge. And I'm fighting back with the negative charge with more negative. It's like throwing fire on fire and the fire only gets bigger, right? Let me be cool. Let me relax. Let me see the peace in that one, the love in that one. Let me pick the pearl out from what they're doing and hold that in my awareness as I speak to them and see how that relationship shifts and changes. It's not always easy to do this, right? You have to have a little determination. And sometimes with this Holy Swan, or even with practicing I first and you first, we have to do it a little bit consciously. So, for example, the way I've practiced this is if I have a relationship in my life that I know needs to change. Like I had one relationship with somebody else at the center at one point who was very competitive and was always jealous and was trying to, undermine all the time and really had a negative energy towards me. And I would find myself reacting or getting defensive or wanting to hide from that one rather than really being able to see the positive. So I imagined that she was like a mirror. And if I was seeing negative in her, it was because there was negative in me that needed to change. This was the I first. So let me look and see what inside me needs to change, right? And so I identified those things and I worked on them rather than trying to expect her to shift her awareness towards me. And then in each interaction, being that Holy Swan, how do I know her to be deeper than this petty jealousy thing that she's got going on? What's deeper inside her? I know her more than that. She's a spiritual person. What are her best qualities? And starting to hold those better qualities in my mind, hold the pearls in my mind as I interacted with her. And at first I couldn't do it, or I could do it sometimes and couldn't do it other times, but gradually over time I became better and better at it. And what I noticed is that her, being a spiritual person, she did the same thing, actually. She started practicing too, and I could feel her working on her own relationship with the way she interacted with me. And together we were able to get ourselves out of that negativity and into a very respectful relationship, right? So you can change the relationships around you by using this spiritual attitude and holding these different awarenesses and methods in your mind as you interact with people. An attitude of generosity and love. Watch your thinking around the person. Make sure you're not holding wasteful thoughts. Transform yourself first in relationship to that one. And be the Holy Swan. Be discerning in the qualities of the one that you choose to pick up as you interact with them. If you practice these things, you really have the power to change your relationships for the better. And others will also shift and change, and they won't know why. It's a very beautiful process to watch, actually, to see people change towards you and to grow a little bit just by me shifting the framework that I hold them in, right? So we can really have a beautiful effect on our relationships by maintaining this spiritual attitude and using these little methods to create the fruit that we want. Okay, so what will the spiritual attitude do for me? So it was all about relationship there, but really we have to say I first. And what is the benefit for myself? Because that's really what's going to allow us to do that. Yes, we want to have better relationships and empower other people, but ultimately there are many, many beautiful benefits for me. Decrease of stress and anxiety. I'm so internally focused on maintaining my peace that things affect me less in the world. Right? And this is how I was able to really work with the stress and anxiety of my job, is to shift that awareness. Who am I going to work? What am I really doing there? I'm not a physical therapist there just to deal with everybody's stress and pain, but I'm actually there to give them the experience of peace, to give them a sense of calm, to introduce them to a different side of themselves, to bring them hope for their future, right? So decreasing stress and anxiety by shifting and holding on to that spiritual awareness really helps me stay stable. It also brings humility and self-respect to put yourself first in this way, because you're really working on your own inner challenges. And when you see your own inner challenges, and it's easier to understand that everybody else has those same inner challenges, right? And you become very humble with that, like I'm not perfect, but at the same time, I'm creating self-respect because I'm holding the awareness of who I really am, right? So I have the self-respect of myself as a spiritual being, a being of peace and love, something beyond this role and responsibility I'm in right now. But I also have the humility that I'm not perfect. I'm also a work in progress. And that other one also is the same. And let me bring that humble nature combined with a self-respect. It makes a very beautiful personality to be around. And so people really appreciate that. And it helps just to keep you humble when you hold that spiritual awareness. Protects me from regrets about past words and actions, right? You make a lot less wrong steps when you're paying close attention to yourself. We get into trouble when we start reacting and saying things out of reaction when there's no self-awareness in between, right? When I'm not holding the image of who I am, I'm not, like that Lita was saying to me, like detach, a little change in perspective. If I'm holding that, I'll make different choices because I have space to do that. I'm not just quick fire reaction, right? I have space to say, all right, what's really going on in the situation? What's this one really need and want? Why am I reacting in this way? Let me shift my own awareness of who I am and bring that energy into the situation and see how it helps, right? And as you practice, you can shift very quickly. It really gets fast in how you do it. Of course, some situations are deeper and you need more time. Maybe we need to reflect and come back to it. But we can help, protect ourselves from regrets about the past. And we can have the courage to right the things that are wrong if we're working from this spiritual awareness, okay? So protection from feeling regret. Keep me out of my head and in my heart, right? The head is the one that has the negative attitudes. The mind, the one who goes into the wasteful thinking about others. And instead, that spiritual awareness keeps me in the space of love, keeps me in a space of peace, keeps me in a space of joy, right? Of respect for the other, of searching for that pearl among the stones that I might see in the surface. I will look for that pearl, and that changes my whole attitude towards the one that I'm interacting with. Right? Keeps me out of the judgment zone in my mind and in an attitude of love, right? An attitude of brotherhood, right? Back to that awareness. Each one is my brother. So it's a very peaceful, loving place to be. And it feels very centered and grounded. And it keeps me connected and stable. So staying out of my head and being in my heart. And lastly, maintains your energy and connection to God. Right? And for me, that was the biggest thing in work. I had forgotten to remember who I was and who I'm connected to and who comes with me to work each day. Right? So by staying in spiritual awareness, it allows me to maintain my energy throughout the day. And if I do that, then the interactions I have are naturally right. And I don't have to work too hard for them. Right? The majority of them will be just fine, loving and cooperative. Right? Because I'm always bringing that connection to higher power, whatever that is for you, or to your higher self. If you don't have that framework for God or higher power, then for yourself, staying connected to the peace and the love and the higher energies within yourself will help you stay there. when you have this beautiful spiritual attitude. Okay. So I love this quote. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, spoken by a French priest and philosopher, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. So that's part of that spiritual identity. How am I going into my everyday? I'm a spiritual being first before I play the roles I have in this drama. Stay tuned into my spiritual identity and I naturally have a spiritual attitude, right? Tuned into the fact that I am a soul playing a role, that I'm a being of peace, then naturally that will come into my every action and my every interaction. So really being firm in my spiritual identity also helps keep the right awareness. So last slide, we're getting close to our time, yes. So how do we create that healing attitude? Because as I mentioned earlier, healing attitude is really something you create in each moment. It's not like you're going to set it once and you've listened to this talk and now that's it, it's done. You have an automatic, lovely spiritual attitude. And it's actually a spiritual attitude. I think I did this for healthcare professionals. I think I changed the word to healing. So, but spiritual, healing, they're both the same thing, right? So create your own spiritual attitude. How do I do that? How do I ensure that I can keep this attitude during the day? Set yourself in your spiritual identity, morning, lunchtime, before each interaction, whatever system works for you. But you need to spend time sitting with yourself in silence and experiencing the peace within yourself, experiencing the higher energy that lies within you, making that connection to your higher self, right? Every day, several times a day, right? We also talked a little bit about traffic control. It's another tool that you can use. Set a little chime on your phone. Every hour it goes off, you just stop for 30 seconds and reconnect to the peaceful being within. That will help a lot to maintain that spiritual identity throughout the day. And especially starting out the morning, if you can, getting up a few minutes earlier and spending time in meditation, setting your experience of peace for the day. Really, you can call up on that experience as you move forward. Watch your thoughts. Identify common thought patterns and change them throughout the day. Demonstrated that with the example of the patient and my interaction with them, not allowing myself to go into the feeling of guilt or taking the blame, right? But letting that one live their life and being compassionate and loving instead. So watch your thoughts, know where they tend to slip, and have some thought patterns ready or new thoughts there, ready to take you into a different experience. As soon as you see your mind going down that rabbit hole, just change them, right? The detached observer, someone else said, sort of the stand back, observe and steer. Someone else had put that up earlier. Check, choose, and change, right? Check, what am I thinking? Choose what thoughts I want to be thinking and change them in each moment, right? So using that throughout the day. Practicing I first and you first, like we just talked about. My I first in transformation of the self and shifting those negative attitudes, and you first in putting others ahead, giving them opportunity, being cooperative with what they need, generous, selfless, right? Practice I first and you first accurately. And then be untouchable, holy swan, meaning that if I'm searching for the pearl, then the stones that are there can't touch me, right? Maintaining that connection to higher power, if you have that, also helps for you to protect yourself from negativity. And searching always for the positive in things is helpful. So thank you. That is the end of my slideshow here. So I want to stop there and just see if anybody has any comments or has any questions they want to ask, or write anything in the chat or a story they want to share. Anything, please feel free.
Okay, G. I was really battling myself. Like I was a little lazy today to participate in the Saturday program. But I was also like battling with him because where I work, like it's not a permanent job, but you know, full of negative. That the head of the place, the directress is so tensed up, and then somebody else walks in, she's tensed up, and then I was lost. I mean, having the knowledge for the over a past 20 years, of course, breaking up here and there, but still, you know, but what you said, yes, I better put myself last and put that other person. And also, like the Holy Swan example, it's I'm going to start on from now on.
Beautiful.
Like whatever others have to say to me, just put it away and like look for the good thing and bliss. I also, in fact, the other thing that I have like experienced, yes, better stop, get connected to Baba or spiritual higher realm and bless the situation and get if you restart, you experience situation is changed a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, it happens. So this was very helpful and thank you so
Okay.
much. God bless
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing, and I wish you the best in your new attitude at work. It's going to serve you.
Yeah,
well.
because I'm a person who goes into easy depression because of my past experiences I've had as a young woman.
Mhm.
I had tried to take my life away, and that at that point only I joined the Brahma Kumaris. So these Brahma Kumaris, I have come a long way with Baba and Dada and everybody and the family. So now being alone in this country is killing me because I don't have family around my children. Like the daughter who promised to support me in LA left to Singapore after getting married, and one in New York, and my son somewhere else in LA. So you know, it really brings in more depression. Nobody. Even if sitting, no one. You know.
Yep. So now you have new tools to keep you out of that, because the more you
Exactly.
practice these things like Holy Swan and I First and all of that,
Mm.
you shift your focus internally, and you're not so influenced by everything going on around you anymore. It's like you create your own internal world, and you carry that with you. So I wish you the best with those. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
You're
God bless
welcome.
you.
You bet. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Any thoughts? No? Okay, well, thank you, everyone. What we'll do is go into some meditation. I have a point of light video to play, and I'll just do a gentle commentary, and we'll set our awareness for the evening and for tomorrow, and then we'll say goodnight. All right, thank you. Om Shanti. Who am I? I am a being of peace. A being of stillness. And when I let go of all the other roles, responsibilities, stories of life, and I just come into this moment, I experience peace. my original nature, when all of the past, all of the beliefs are stripped away. Is peace. Is love. I am like this point of light, spiritual, subtle, and eternal. But as I remember and visualize my original form, I begin to experience peace. And I realize the energy of peace lies within me always. I have no need to search for it outside of myself. No need to ask for it from others, to expect it from situations. I am a peacemaker. It is within me. And the more I remember this, the more I connect in silence to that peace, the more easily and readily it flows. I am peace. I am light. These thoughts create a beautiful energy around me. And that energy permeates the atmosphere. It influences those around me. It even spreads to every cell of the body. I am a being of peace. I feel the peace within me. I spread peace and light into the world. And as I sit in silence, I create the thought, I am a being of peace. Peace is my nature. And even as I come back into the awareness of the room around me, back into the awareness of my body, sights and sounds in my environment, let me step into this drama, into this scene, with that stable, strong, spiritual attitude. I am a being of peace, and I share peace in each moment. Om Shanti.
Shanti. Thank you so much, Sister Merrillyn, to join us this evening and sharing such beautiful points, experiences, and also great examples of having the awareness of I first versus you first. So thank you for that. And like you said, this year we met via Zoom, but next year we hope to see you physically in Los
Let's
Angeles.
see. I went to the LA Center one time, a very long time ago, so maybe I'll get to come back. So that'd be nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone for joining, and feel free to stay back as we're heading towards our evening meditation hour. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you. Om Shanti. Wonderful.
Shanti, thank you.
Thank
Om
you.
Shanti.
Om Shanti Ji and everyone. Love you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you. You all enjoy your meditation.